So ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Aromatheory. Now that we stumbled across an international break, what I want to give to you guys, especially over the course of this week, because starting from next week, we're back thinking about the season, is kind of tactical side to the club. So over the course of these next couple of days, I want to try and, all together, to try and get opinions on big questions which Mourinho could probably be asking himself. But most importantly, today's topic is about Tammy Abraham, the player who arguably is the worst when it comes to form out of all at the start of the season. So I want to kind of break everything down and answer the question which a lot of people are potentially asking themselves, which is exactly the title of this video. After these performances, is Tammy Abraham still, is he still important to the club? Now, what I want to say is, just obviously feel free to put your opinions in the live chat and let me know. Oops, why the hell is someone's calling? So I kind of want to answer these questions. So yeah, I created a spreadsheet full of facts, full of statistics to try and come up to a conclusion. So obviously, Tammy has stumbled into quite a big problem. And this problem is that he isn't scoring as much as he used to do last season, and that in general the team scores less, potentially because our striker, our big man, isn't turning up to matches. So from the last few years, we can't hide the fact that Roma is scoring less than what it should be doing. But despite this, from when Mourinho picked up this Roma team, Roma is the second team in the Serie A in these last two seasons with chances created. This is a very significant statistic which puts to mind that it's the team, it's Tammy, who have knocked on a hard period of time. Now this is important because, just to say it again, from when Mourinho picked up this Roma team, Roma is the second team with chances created in the Serie A with 116 chances, just below Inter Milan, who have created 145, and before Atalanta, who created 102 chances, Lazio, who created 101 chances, and Milan, who created 100 chances. This puts to mind what I just said, which is basically this. It's the fact that we know how to score. We know how to create chances. Dybala has been creating chances. Pellegrini knows how to create chances. The problem is that right now at this stage, our strikers are finding it really hard to score. Now, this is kind of, as I said before, hopefully it's a knock-on thing, something which they faced and that they will solve in a short term. But it's kind of important because from those 116 chances in the Serie A, Roma only scored 38 goals from when Mourinho picked up this team. So these first statistics are all about Mourinho's experience at Roma. This statistic is where we need to focus on, because from those 116 chances, Roma only scored 38 goals. That's a 32.8%. And, it really puts to mind that maybe it's the style of play that we've adopted. Maybe it's the new tactics. Maybe it's just all of these things summed together that lead us to score less goals. And, again, this isn't just, I'm not blaming Tammy because we're scoring less goals. It's obviously a team problem. But obviously Tammy is the main striker of this team. So He is the responsible lad when it comes to scoring goals. And again, we've seen just out of these first 8 game weeks in this area how many chances we create. Our problem is not getting the ball in front of the goal, because we do that perfectly. We've done that against Atalanta. We've done that against top sides. The problem is that we have difficulties in putting that ball at the back of the net, which leads me on to kind of zoom in into Tammy, because these first statistics were about the team overall, about the attack side of this team overall. But if we zoom into Tammy Abraham, Tammy already missed 5 clear chances this season, and in the Serie A, he is only behind Victor Osimhen when it comes to chances missed. Obviously, however, Osimhen has been tormented when it comes to injuries more than Tammy, and it could be said that Osimhen, obviously, after all of these injuries, has lost the touch and the feeling when it comes to scoring goals. But Tammy isn't the worst. Tammy is the same. Tammy has missed 5 clear chances. A lot of these 5 chances, this statistic has dragged Tammy above into this rating just because of the chances he missed against Atalanta. The 2 big chances he missed were basically almost half of these 5 chances created. And what obviously, I think it's wrong, but yes, Tammy has had a terrible start to the season, but now that he missed 2 chances against Atalanta, I think everyone is, in a way, unnecessarily picking on him, which, I totally agree, he should have scored those chances, but I think we have to kind of open it wider to that, not just base Tammy's performance from the 2 missed chances against Atalanta. And also in the last 2 years of Serie A experience, Tammy missed 24 big chances, which is a number shared with Lautaro Martinez from Inter Milan. So Tammy has got this thing implanted in his veins. This thing of knowing how to score goals, but always missing some very big chances. Now, one thing which I want to say before really getting forward into this live stream is that something which I already mentioned before, but obviously new subscribers are going to be here, and obviously people who missed past live stream. I think it's wrong to discredit Tammy Abraham, because let's not forget that Tammy dragged this team last season. Tammy picked this team on his shoulders and brought it to win a Conference League final. Dybala wasn't there last season. Tammy last season was very consistent, and that's what he needs to drag on to this season as well. So yeah, he is a striker which misses a lot of chances, and it's a shame, because Tammy is also a striker who helps the team a lot, who produces a lot for the team. In fact, he has 50 shots on target out of 117 total attempts in the space of 2 seasons. That's a lot. Tammy wants to try. Tammy helps the team. And I think it's a shame, because as much as Tammy is there to score the goals, I think we don't give enough credit to what Tammy does if you remove the goal section. Tammy gives so much to this team. And yes, we're used to, and we have to base strikers on the amount of goals they scored. That's just the way football works. You're a striker, you don't need to think about the defensive section. You need to back the goals. But what Tammy does for the team, I think, is something which not many strikers do. Tammy going deep inside the midfield to get the ball back. Because sometimes he realizes himself that he's way too isolated in attack. And therefore, what he needs to do is step up himself to try and get that ball. But obviously, he isn't Messi. He isn't Maradona. He can't get that ball and physically dribble past everyone. He doesn't have the abilities to do that. So I think, in a way, Tammy's dropping deeper down to get the ball, to kind of alert Dybala and Pellegrini that he's isolated up front and needs more support. So he's kind of going, I'm going to help you get the ball and I'm going to give it to you, but you need to give me more support in attack because I'm way too isolated. And that is definitely a problem. Tammy is way too isolated in attack this season. And kind of in some matches last season as well. And I'm not sure if that means that we should start playing with 3 midfielders behind Tammy as a form of support, extra support. I really don't know. That's something which Mourinho needs to choose based on training sessions. But one thing which I have noticed, and I think many people have noticed here, is that Tammy in several occasions is very isolated. And that does lead in him scoring less goals. So yeah, he is the 4th player in the Serie A when it comes to the shot conversion rate. Only 2 goals this season, and despite the fact that he has qualities which help the team only scored 8 goals in the space of 7 Serie A matches this season. That's a very bad statistic. That's, I think, the worst ever. That is basically 1 goal every match. That's an average of 1 goal every match. Up to now in this Serie A, we scored 8 goals in 7 matches. Puts to mind one thing. If Tammy doesn't turn up to matches, if Tammy doesn't bag the goals, the team drops back down. Because I think we've really understood from this start of the season to last season as well. If you combine the two, I think one of the few things which I'm starting to notice is that it's Tammy or Dybala which backs the goals. And that's a problem, because if you have a limit to the players who backs the goals, if these 2 players or one of the 2 players don't turn up to matches, then it's kind of like it's a problem. So definitely the variety of players which score the goals is a problem in this team. Not many different players score goals. We either win because Dybala scores, we either score because Dybala scores, because Tammy scores, or because someone nicks it in from a corner kick. If it's Smalling, if it's, I don't know, Mancini. And you know why? Because I think one of the tactical problems of Roma is that Roma don't shoot from outside of the box. And that's a problem. Because if you don't shoot from the outside, the only player who shoots outside the box is Dybala. And that's why he scores the goals. You never see Pellegrini try to shoot. You always try to see Roma pass it to Tammy in the box and score. And if Tammy isn't there, and if we don't shoot more from outside the box, we're going to have plenty of missed chances. And yeah. So yeah. The big question is the kind of answer is, can we see a Roma in the future without Tammy Abraham? And again, a few statistics to kind of answer this question. Even last season, he had a very difficult start. This is interesting. Listen to this. Even last season, he had a difficult start with just 2 goals, just like this season. But then things started to change. And from the start of November up until April, he was the best Serie A striker in front of Vlahovic with 13 goals and 18 attempts. He's a player which needs to get adapted to the circumstances of the season, and in several occasions, his start to the season was very, very bad. And this, I'm not saying it's the solution to everything, but it's something to note. There is a pattern. Tammy has bad starts to seasons. Last season, he scored 2 goals at the start, just like this season. Several occasions at Chelsea, he started really, really, really bad. This is something which Tammy is used to. We are seeing a pattern where Tammy does not perform at the start of the season. Tammy starts performing and starts bagging the goals, just like he did last season with 13 goals in 17 matches. Best striker in this area from the end of November to April. That's a lot of time. That is the space where you need Tammy to back the goals. After the World Cup, it's where teams are going to be tired. There are going to be injured players. That's where we want Tammy, to perform. So yeah. This is interesting because as I said before, last season as well he had a difficult start, and in many occasions as a Chelsea striker as well. And the fact that the fact that I think the most important thing to note, which really helps us understand the fact that can we see the future in Roma without Tammy Abraham, Mourinho loves this guy and always highlights his mistakes and also his importance, his role in this team. And this is shown not by the words Mourinho uses. This is shown by the fact that Tammy is the attacker who stayed the longest on the pitch in last season's Serie A with 3,662 minutes. That is 90.4% of all available minutes he had to play. That's a lot. That is significant. Because that puts to mind that Mourinho likes him as a player. Mourinho knows how important he is to the team. So, it's very, very important, I think, as I always said before, to not discredit what he did last season. And I think if you sum up all of these statistics at the end of the video, you really get the feeling of why he is such an important player. He misses so many chances. And we've seen this. He misses very big chances as well. But I think Tammy is more than the player who bags the goals. He is there to bag the goals, and we all agree on this. But I think he does so much more than just bag the goals, which is impressive. Obviously, if Mourinho one day decides to go, right, I'm going to try and start some other players instead of Tammy, and I'm going to start Tammy on the bench, we've obviously got two options, Shomurodov and Belotti. Starting with the Uzbekistan player, realistically speaking, Elder has never been considered as a Tammy substitution by Jose Mourinho. There is no one which can say else, anything else to this. Elder Shomurodov has never been a consideration as a Tammy substitution by Jose Mourinho. He can play next to Tammy, and he can also play instead of Tammy, but he hasn't got the talent and just the physique to be the pivot in attack. And we've seen this happen. So as much as he's a chance, Shomurodov is way better when he plays next to someone like Tammy or Belotti than by himself. Shomurodov is not an available substitution because I think he doesn't have the tactics implanted in him to be the player which Tammy is when he plays. And obviously the second option is Belotti. And as we discussed already, Belotti's arrival has created a sort of competition in attack because Mourinho rotates them both. We've seen Belotti start against Helsinki. We've seen Tammy start against Atalanta. We've seen Tammy get subbed off against Atalanta. Belotti gets subbed off against Helsinki. And these two players will 100% have a lot of chances together. And a lot of chances where one of them sits on the bench and the other one starts. And obviously, as much as it can sound bad for Tammy to have a competitor, Mourinho said it really well. Tammy should not be mad that he has a competitor like Belotti. Tammy should be happy that he has a competitor like Belotti. And that's just facts. Because one thing which I would say, which I've got written down, is that I'll get to it later, but Belotti gives Tammy a rest. And as much as Tammy wants to play every match, it's important for him to get rests. Not necessarily because he is tired, which at the start of the season, yes, it could be an excuse with, the World Cup being in the winter, but normally it's not an excuse to be tired in September. But, rests are not just about a player sitting on the bench because he's tired. A rest is also a player sitting on the bench because he maybe needs to just needs a meditation rest, something like that. So Belotti knows how to play with a number 9 behind his back, and Tammy knows this. But Belotti does allow Tammy to rest, and subsequently, if Tammy rests, that will also allow Mourinho to ask more from his English striker. Because last season, Mourinho only had Tammy Abraham as a valid option. And at the end of the season, Tammy was knackered. Mourinho couldn't ask anything because he played every single match. If Tammy rests more matches than last season, it also means that Mourinho can ask more from him. And that sets up higher levels when it comes to Tammy as well. So as a conclusion, what will I say? Roma needs Tammy Abraham, especially when the intensity of games increases, because Roma create more chances against small clubs than against big clubs. But maybe to have the best Tammy Abraham, Belotti needs to be inserted to give Tammy rests, just as we were discussing. Maybe the reality is that no, Belotti can't take Tammy Abraham's place. He doesn't have that tear of lucidity, that speed that Tammy has to cover the box, starting from deep positions. Because one thing which Tammy is very good at is starting from deep positions and getting inside the box. Tammy just needs to work on his accuracy, which is linked to his mindset, which he lost, and he's at a certain stage. He's at that stage of a season where his mindset is not with him. And I think, as I already said many times, the mindset isn't with him because he feels the pressure that he needs to perform like last season. And maybe he also feels the pressure and the urge to bring another trophy in the cabinet of the club, which is hard. It is very, very hard. But that pressure needs to be removed because Tammy needs to focus on this season. Tammy needs to forget about what he did last season, what the team achieved last season, and focus on this season. So my conclusion is that no, Tammy needs to keep on starting because I think Tammy has got some abilities which Belotti doesn't have. I think Belotti has to start a lot of matches because, as we were saying before, Tammy will need rests. But starting, I think Tammy Abraham should keep on starting. We've seen that he bags the goals. And I've linked so many statistics in this live stream. We've seen how he gives a positive impact to this team. The only thing which he needs to work on right now is his accuracy. Because if he sourced out that accuracy, we can't discredit what he did last season. And if he does what he did last season, then realistically speaking, Belotti would not even get chances. Obviously, he'll get chances to give Tammy rests, but as a starting player, Belotti would never be an option. We just need that Tammy from last season back in our team. And that also gives Dybala a breather as well, because Dybala is pulling this team right now. And if Tammy starts turning up to matches like Dybala and with Dybala, then Dybala needs to do half the work that he does now. So ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. This, what do we call this? A fact file about Tammy Abraham. So yeah, if you haven't already, make sure to smash the subscribe button. Let's try and get 6,000 subscribers as fast as possible. If you haven't already, please smash the like button in this live stream and follow me on Instagram over there in the orange box over at Simon_AS_. Let me know in the comments your answer to this question. Is Tammy Abraham still irreplaceable? So yeah, let me know based on these statistics which I read, which you probably didn't know. And yeah, and as I said before, in these next couple of days, before next week, which is obviously when we'll focus on this area again, now that we've got international breaks, we'll get into these tactical questions where everyone can have their own opinions and that. So I will catch you very soon. Subscribe, smash the like button, and comment in the comments your small answer to this box. Simon out.